They are unique, intelligent, social, and, well, small. Miniature donkeys are native to the Mediterranean islands and were brought to the United States in the 1920s. Today, the cuddly and cute animal can be found on many farms in the U.S. We take today's Paw Report on the road to visit Continental Farms in Washington, Indiana, to learn more about this friendly and endearing little creature. Stay with us.
The Paw Report on WEIU is supported by Rural King, America's farm and home store, livestock feed, farm equipment, pet supplies, and more. You can find your store and more information regarding Rural King at ruralking.com.
Dave's Decorating Center is a proud supporter of the Paw Report on WEIU. Dave's Decorating Center features the Mohawk Smart Strand Silk Forever Clean Carpet. Dave's Decorating Center, authorized Mohawk Color Center in Charleston.
Well, you've noticed we're not in the studios of WEIU TV for this episode of the Paw Report. Again, we have gone on the road, and on the road we have to Washington, Indiana, to Continental Farms, home of a beautiful herd of miniature donkeys. And the owner of that beautiful herd is Wayne Scheutz, and he's invited us to his farm today. So thank you, Wayne, for inviting us to Continental Farms. We couldn't have asked for a beautiful, more beautiful day than we've had today.
It's a wonderful day, and we're really happy to have you here doing this segment for us.
Well, thank you very much. And as I mentioned, we're talking about miniature donkeys. I won't go into grave detail about how I came across the topic, but it was exciting when I found it on the internet. And so I'm going to pose the first question to you is, how did your family get started raising miniature donkeys?
That's kind of a long story in that we did raise dairy goats for a period of time, about 17 years. And somewhere along the way, towards the end of our dairy goat career, my wife one morning, sitting in the room in here, turned to me and she said, "You know what I'd like to have?" No, I don't know what you tell me. "I'd like to have a burro." And I said, "Where did that come from?" And well, my guess is that she had been reading one of the books that she likes to read, and they'd discussed about burros and stuff. Anyhow, I said, well, I'm not opposed to that, so let me do a little research. And of course, the internet is a wonderful thing. I managed to find some different farms that had some. Of course, they're not real plentiful, but anyhow, I did my research, found some farms, and we made some trips to some different farms. And finally, at about the fourth farm that I went to, I ended up buying two. So we had two donkeys and some dairy goats all living together, and along the way I reached a point where I decided it was time to move on, and I sold the entire dairy goat herd to a lady over in southern Illinois, and then proceeded to reach out to places where I could find other miniature donkeys and learned about pedigrees on them and just kind of worked towards getting a quality herd. All the donkeys are registered. They have a pedigree that goes with them. Many of my stock some of it comes from up in Canada, some of it in Nebraska, Vermont, different places. But we did the pedigrees and found the quality animals we wanted and just have a lot of fun raising them.
Well, you mentioned you went on the internet and did some research, and I'm sure in that research you discovered where the miniature donkey originated from decades, if not centuries ago.
Yeah. Obviously, I may be old, but I wasn't there originally. They came from Sicily and Sardinia, is my understanding. I said that our donkeys are registered. They are registered as Mediterranean miniature donkeys. So perhaps that gives you an idea where they originated from. They come from places that were, I guess, more like South Texas, Arizona, New Mexico, where they didn't have a lot of green grass and the like, didn't have much to thrive on. So they are a very hardy animal. They do well without much in the way of nourishment and the like.
Not in the way of nourishment, you said. That leads me into the characteristics of these little guys. Height, I think, is my number one question. Weight, colors, life expectancy. Tell me all about these little animals.
Good questions, and questions that other people need to think about if they think they might want some. Height, our miniature donkeys are registered up to 36 inches. If they're taller than 36, and that's measured at the top of the shoulders, what we call the withers. So if they're more than 36, then they go into a classification of just donkey. But a miniature donkey has to be less than 36 inches. Weight, a mature one will weigh 200, 300 pounds, somewhere in that area. Color-wise, they do come in various colors. The original ones, the ones I think of as being the original donkeys, were gray. Pictures you find of them just goes back to them being gray. Somehow they've branched into where we have red, we have black, brown, and we have some spots. So there's a variety depending upon what color you like, and sometimes that's the deciding factor that people make. They are very friendly, always seem to be wanting attention, want you to pet on them, and so one of the reasons why people will pick a certain donkey is that they find that it's one of them that keeps coming up to them wanting them to pet on it. I will mention that anybody that's a prospective owner needs to know that they are very social animals, and they do need to have a companion. They need to have like 2 donkeys at a minimum. They can get along with other equine like a pony or something like that, but they do best if they have at least 2 donkeys, not just one.
A friend.
Yes, yes.
How long do they normally live, Wayne?
They say 30 to 35 years. Depends on where you do your research. Some of them will say 20 to 35, but they are something that once you get them, you're kind of committed for a period of time.
And you have about 30 head here.
Correct.
You mentioned, and maybe you can tell us a little bit about your farm and your head, and maybe take us on a little tour, because we are going to show the viewers more of this beautiful land that you have here. You have all ages.
Yes.
And all colors.
Yes, yes. We do breed them and raise them, producing the little ones. They stay with the little one stays with their mother for about 5 to 6 months, and then we wean them. We seem to have people that contact us wanting to start a herd, and we end up selling a few here and there. Manage to keep the numbers down.
You talked about their personality, and you said that they're very friendly.
They are.
What are some of their other traits that you've noticed over the years? From you said that they want to have a buddy, so if somebody is out there thinking about maybe getting a miniature donkey, they need to have a friend with them. Other personality traits that you've noticed?
Okay, they kind of get a bad rap in that people say that they are stubborn, like a mule, and what it amounts to is that they are not animals that will just bolt and run like a horse might do. They tend to analyze the situation. If you want to lead them up and load them into a trailer and they've never been in a trailer before, they won't just jump in there. They'll just brace themselves and analyze the situation to see if there's anything that might harm them. And then once they decide it's okay, then they'll go ahead and get in. So trying to get one to do something that it has not done before may cause it to lock up all 4 and not move until it has a chance to see what it is you're asking it to do.
I would classify that as pretty intelligent. So I would say,
yeah.
And maybe you can expand upon that, the intelligence level of these little creatures.
Yeah. They seem to be pretty easy to train, to lead, and we sometimes teach them to pull a cart, which is a wonderful thing. Especially and we put them in parades and the like. So once we hook them up to a cart and you're maybe in a parade going down through, it's fun to watch the little kids saying, "Mommy, Mommy, look, 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 look."
Aww.
And the kids love seeing them. As I said before, we sometimes go to shows with them, and they can be led through obstacle courses, or we drive them through obstacle courses. Just a lot of things. There's also a few farms in various states that tend to have miniature donkeys as therapy animals for children, especially who have some type of a problem. And some people take them to nursing homes, and the old folks just love, I can remember when Uncle Charlie had one of them, and that kind of thing. Brings back memories, and they have a wonderful time with them. So there's different things you can do with them, as well as just being with them and petting on them and
watching them, like you and your wife enjoy doing.
Oh, yes.
Do they have a specific care or housing need? Obviously you have 2 beautiful barns here, but what about maybe your daily routine and care and food for the animals?
Like any animal, you want to make sure they have some kind of shelter if the weather's bad or if it's real hot or cold or whatever. It doesn't require very much. It doesn't have to be something real special. A 3-sided structure with a roof over it can be sufficient to house them. That way, if it's raining and they want to get in out of the rain, they can, but that doesn't mean that they're going to. Sometimes they just soon stand out in the rain and get wet. But they need to be able to have some kind of shelter that can give them some shade if it's real hot. They tolerate the heat real well. They do tolerate the cold as well. I've never had any of them have any problem with the cold weather we have here in the Midwest in the middle of the winter. But they need some type of shelter. They need fresh water. Should have some kind of fresh water every day for them, and all the time. They can pretty well live on pasture, grass, through the spring, summer, and fall. In the winter, when the grass is not so plentiful, we do supplement with hay, but it's just a grass hay. We don't use alfalfa, and it's too rich for them. We do give them a little bit of grain, just maybe a handful of grain once a day, although it would not be necessary. Some people that get maybe they've got 2 or 3 donkeys, they can buy a pelleted product from a farm store and give them a little bit of that once a day. So they don't require very much in the way of nutrition.
Do they require a lot of exercise, or do you just let them graze?
Just let them graze. They'll get their own exercise. We do also, medication-wise, we give them a worming medication about every 3rd month. They'll get a little dab of worming medication, which goes in the mouth and helps control the possibility of any worms. They get their feet trimmed about every 3 months.
So do you have a farrier come out and take care of that?
Yeah, have a guy come by and he trims them all up.
You mentioned some things that you're able to do with the donkeys, and as we came to your beautiful home and farm, I've noticed lots of ribbons around the house and in the barn area. So there are things that you do specifically with the donkeys.
Correct.
Share with us that, but also some maybe uses that other folks might have with them.
Well, I mentioned the fact that you can go to shows with them and parades and that type of thing.
And there are different categories at shows that you take them to.
Yeah. I have 2 geldings, which are trained to drive. They pull a cart and you drive them. They are great in that I can put them in a halter class where you lead them around. Then they have what's called in-hand trail, where you lead them through and past certain things that might spook them. And then when you get done with those various classes, you can hitch them up to a cart, and you can drive them again through an obstacle course to see how well they can perform. And then you have pleasure driving, which is probably my favorite. Gives you a chance to dress up in a attire that would have perhaps been from bygone eras, shall we say. Not necessarily real long past, but you get to dress up in a special attire. The ladies are always spiffied up with their big hats and their special dress and all. They really put it on. So yeah, we do that. Shows are something you can go and do, and it's usually a 1 or 2 day event. I'm going to a show this weekend, taking my 2 drivers and going and going to have some fun.
You're also quite active in an association geared specifically for the miniature donkeys, which I wasn't aware that there was one out there. What is the association, and maybe talk about how popular are mini donkeys and farms, not just in Indiana, but maybe the Midwest or the country?
There are quite a number of farms down in Texas, pretty fair amount over in Missouri, Kansas, that raise miniature donkeys. We don't have so many here in what I classify as the Midwest, in Illinois, Indiana, and Ohio, but there are some. There's three of us breeders in Indiana that are pretty active in raising them and showing them.
And also that's led to your affiliation with this association. What is the association you're affiliated with?
Well, there's the American Miniature Donkey Association.
So there are members all over the U.S.
All over
then.
the United States, yes, and Canada. There's a lot of breeders in Canada.
And that also is probably a help source for you. You know, if you have questions yourself, or if you need to rely on the help of maybe some other breeder, some things that maybe that they've encountered with their herds.
Right. Yeah. If you have a problem with one that you just want to know a little bit more than what the veterinarian has been able to tell you. Well, what experience have you had with a sore foot or runny nose or whatever it might be? You can talk with other breeders and they can tell you what they've done. And then,
if somebody out there is entertaining the thought of getting a miniature donkey, and I'll go back to the beginning of our conversation when your wife just said, I think I want to burrow. What's advice that you can give to somebody that's starting out? Obviously they need to start with their research.
Yeah.
Where do they go from there? I mean, what does a person need? What type of knowledge, a home, acreage, what do they need to know?
They need to think about how they are going to care for it. Do they have some kind of housing, able to put out water, and some hay in the wintertime?
Is there a specific acreage that you would recommend somebody have? Because they do need to be pastured.
Yeah.
You know, you have, I don't know how much, you might be able to tell us how many acres you have here.
Well, altogether I've got 9 acres, but I think that probably 5 acres is tied up in the shop, the house, 2 barns. So they only got about 4, possibly at the most 5 acres of land. So it doesn't take a lot of land to raise them.
You said they do get along with other animals. What about dogs and cats and, other domesticated animals?
Some people have some large guard dogs that they put in with their donkeys if they are living in an area that has a problem with coyotes or some kind of predator animal. They'll perhaps have a large guard dog. I don't have any dogs. My son has a couple dogs, and he'll sometimes come, and they don't exactly get along, but it's because they're curious. They'll look at them and think, Is that dog going to hurt me or not? And so they're kind of cautious. But I know that they can learn to get along.
I have a feeling after being on this farm as many years as you have, you've got a lot of great stories to tell and to share. You smile when I light up. I said that. Share with our viewers some of the most memorable moments that you've had with these little guys. And in fact, when you were showing us around, they all came up and one really took a liking to your jeans. He kept nudging you and wanting to bite your jeans, but that's just small. I'm sure you've got many stories. Most memorable.
They come up to you and they want you to pet on them or give them attention of some sort. And if you don't do that, they will have a tendency to get hold of your jeans and tug on it, and until you finally start petting them. I have a Jack down here that came out of Canada, and he's always been from day one. He was just really well cared for. People really paid attention to him, petted on him. When I walk into his pen, he'll walk over to me and he'll put his head up against my crotch area, and if I don't start petting on him, then he just starts pushing on me until I'm about to fall over. He wants attention. Never aggressive in any way, but he knows how to get my attention. I think that the story that I like to relate in regards to these wonderful animals is about the couple that had bought a small farm and wanted to raise some livestock of some sort, wanted some animals for themselves. And so they called me up and asked about if they could come and see my animals. And I obviously told them yes, they'd be glad to have them come. And they said that they were interested in maybe getting Barbadol sheep or some alpacas or some miniature donkeys. I said, well, okay. So when they came, I said, how's your research doing? Have you been to any places? Yeah. We want something that we could pet on and play with. So we went to an alpaca farm. Went to the Barbadol sheep farm. And said we told the guy we wanted something that was friendly that we could pet on and the like. Said we walked out into the pasture and they just scattered all over the place. They were not friendly. And so she told me then that they went to the alpaca farm, and the alpacas came up to the fence and was there for them to pet on them. But after a while, one of them spit on on her. And they said, well, we just don't want to tolerate that. So I said, well, let's go down and walk into the pasture here and let's see what happens. And so we walked into the pasture and we stood there for a little bit. The next thing you knew, we had about 10 or 12 of them all around us, sticking their nose right up there wanting us to pet on. And consequently, that was what made the decision for them.
That sold them.
Yeah.
And they have now some miniature donkeys in their family.
Yep.
Well, Wayne, I can't thank you enough for inviting WEIU to this beautiful Continental Farm here in Washington, Indiana, and sharing all your knowledge on these beautiful little creatures that I know after our viewers see it, it will melt their heart. So thank you so much for joining us for this episode. I'm
so happy to have you come and do this segment. You mentioned about the website. If people should want to go to the website, it's continentaldonkeys.com.
And there's more information on everything that we talked about today.
There is.
All right. Thank you, Wayne.
Well, thank you very much.
And thank you for joining us for this on-the-road episode of the Paw Report in Washington, Indiana. For now, I am your host, Kelly Goodwin, and we'll see you next time. If you're a veterinarian, trainer, groomer, specialist, rescue organization, or shelter that would like to partner with the Paw Report by providing expert guests for the show, please contact us by emailing weiu@weiu.net or call 217-581-5956. If you have a topic you'd like to see on the show or questions for our experts, contact us with those too.
Dave's Decorating Center is a proud supporter of the Paw Report on WEIU. Dave's Decorating Center features the Mohawk Smart Strand Silk Forever Clean Carpet. Dave's Decorating Center, authorized Mohawk Color Center in Charleston.
The Paw Report on WEIU is supported by Rural King, America's farm and home store, livestock feed, farm equipment, pet supplies, and more. You can find your store and more information regarding Rural King at ruralking.com. Additional support for the Paw Report on WEIU is brought to you by viewers like you. Thank you.